Hey listeners, are you enjoying this show? And do you want to hear more? Then please subscribe to our show on your favorite streaming platform. Like this show and tell others about us. We are available on Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and Apple Podcasts. So please connect with us there. You also can watch shows live being recorded on our Facebook site, The Awakening Educator. You can connect with us via Instagram or Twitter at The Awakening Educator. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter. We've been busy recording a ton of terrific shows that will be rolling out over the rest of this year. So we would love to be able to have you be a regular member of our community. Thank you so much and have a great, great day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Awakening Educator.
I'm Susan Andrian.
I'm Megan Sweet. It's nice to see everybody here on a Friday. I'm feeling kind of wild today, Susan, I just have to say.
Good. I'm glad. I like it when you get a little wild, right? And it's just you and I today. We must have gotten our wires crossed, and
yeah, we thought we were meeting with Ascribe Education Consulting and talking about equity. But yeah, I think we must have gotten some calendaring issues confused. I'll put it on me because I am spinning too many plates. So our apologies. But Susan and I thought we could just check in with one another and kind of reflecting on this. We have 2 more interviews for the rest of this season, and then we're going to be taking a season pause. So it's also just kind of a good reflective time. It's fall equinox. So much to talk about, Susan.
So much to talk about. And, and I think I'm glad we actually get the chance to check in with each other. It has been, and I brought this up in a lot of the interviews, it's been one of the most difficult years for teachers and educators and families and kids, and just really, in many ways, even more difficult than when we went into distance learning. And the needs are really great. And so I'm glad we get the opportunity to kind of talk about how do we support educators during this time, as well as how do we support students and how do we support families and how do we balance the emotional needs with the academic needs. And those are big, important questions that I can't imagine diving deep into. Anyone I'd rather dive deep into these questions with than you, Megan.
I appreciate that, Susan. And yeah, I was saying this. So, I'm on the school board in my town, and I was saying this last year in one of the board meetings. So there's a lot of urgency to get back into person, and understandably, right? There's a lot of well, if we're back in person, then we'll be able to all these problems that we are seeing with our kids or seeing with ourselves are going to go away because we're going to get returned to normalcy. And I remember saying then, I didn't know how right I was going to be, but that actually coming back into person isn't we're years into this kind of none of us are ever going to be the same again. So we have to learn to just accept that our world, ourselves, our children are going to be different. But also, there's not a quick fix here to get out of this. Number one, COVID's not going away. Number two, recovery is going to take a long time. You don't just flip a switch and everything's better. And then also just logistically being open with COVID is challenging. So I think there's a lot for us to talk about. And I really feel for everyone. So this isn't me being critical, but it is we're in uncharted territories again, really now in our 3rd year in uncharted territories. 3rd school year, 2nd year, 3rd school year.
Yeah. 3rd school year, 2nd year. And it was funny. I was talking to somebody today who does a lot of the tech at a number of our schools and has for many, many years. And I said to him the whole time, I kept asking, how are we going to emerge from this better than we came in? And acknowledging that I was a little disappointed that we haven't really emerged different. And I think because the demand is so great and the stress is so great, and that what we do when those situations happen is we revert back to what we know, and we're trying to go back to the way things were. And in that, and I see teachers just working so hard to catch kids up or so hard to make it work. And we've lost the opportunity to take a breath, to actually reimagine, to actually do things in a profoundly different way.
Yeah.
So it makes me a little sad, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're in school, Susan, and so I feel like you probably have such a front and center view of the struggle. I am much more intellectually connected to it. Like I know that it's hard. I know enough educators. I talk with you, but you actually are one of those people. So you're separating yourself from the group. But I'd say you're a part of that group, right? You're in the schools, you're in the district, and you're watching and experiencing the struggle yourself, and you're doing the best you can to meet everyone. But it's just an incredibly difficult time, and it's dynamic, and every day changes, and what we think we're going to do and what we think we can accomplish has to change on a moment's notice. And as humans, that's hard for us to do. As educators, I think it's really hard for us to do. I was just talking with some other educators, and it's like, especially like teachers and principals, all of us, we love a good schedule. We love a scope and sequence and have it mapped out and know what one, we have to do that. But we've also trained ourselves to like orient and depend on that. And we're not prepared for the groundlessness and the inconsistencies that this last, almost 2 years now has brought us, year and a half, I guess.
And I think it's in ways that people can't even really anticipate or imagine, right? And so some concrete ways that I have seen the demand go up is that there aren't any substitute teachers, right? Like substitute teachers are not picking up any of the positions. And on top of that, teachers are being put on quarantine, or, where historically teachers would power through if there wasn't a substitute, because it was almost worse. Come back to your kids. You'd rather come. Yeah.
I'd be almost dead.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah. Like I might have, a fever. I'm just going to take some Tylenol and suffer through this because it's worse than having a sub. But now with COVID, any symptoms, you're actually required to stay, and you're required to stay until you get a clear COVID test. So that's going to take anywhere from, 3 to 5 days or more. So we're having more teachers out. We have no subs. And then things like nutritional services, like all of these sort of the basic stuff that makes a school run are not there. So people are scrambling and trying to fill in those pieces while the needs are greater in the academic. So it's just this like really challenging day-to-day experience. And I'm worried that we're going to have that this teacher shortage that we have right now is just going to continue to grow.
Well, and anecdotal data is suggesting that that's true, right? So, well, I don't think we have. I don't have at my fingertips anyway, like a national randomized survey or whatever that could give me more confidence. But there is evidence that teachers are leaving and are citing COVID. Administrators too, because they're just too overwhelmed. It's too much. And our kids are, so we're in this like really tough place where our kids are coming in behind. They're developmentally not doing and being where they would normally have been. And we're getting lots of evidence of that, right? So distance learning kind of filled a gap. We all knew that there would be instructional and learning gaps for kids. They're not coming where we thought they would be, but they're more, I think, in like intellectual development. I bet skills wise, they know it, they're fine, but like knowing their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, they're okay. But it's in this like complex learning and discourse and social, emotional, and interpersonal interactions that they've been missing. And how that then shows up in their academic performance and experience, that's missing. Or it is behind. And then there's just inconsistencies. No, it's a tough spot.
And it's interesting to think about the like the stamina that was needed at home versus the stamina that's needed to make it through a full school day, right? And so if you had kindergartners and first graders last year who are now first graders and second graders doing distance learning, they could get a hug from their mom throughout the day. They could lie down and take a nap when they were tired. They could kind of move away from their computer. They could go to the refrigerator. And so there were all these ways in which they weren't building up that stamina to do the independent regulation and independent sort of learning of being in school. And so we're asking the kids to like engage in academic rigor for long periods of time, and they're just sort of exhausted by midday. And we're seeing lots of kids really falling apart because they've been asked to be on for a longer period than their little nervous system can manage, right? It didn't give that resiliency building pattern that we know is what works, what Bruce Perry talks about, the resiliency building pattern. And instead we kind of put them into this big change in this short period of time with academic rigor that they haven't experienced, and social interactions that have big demands, and following rules, and just noise and sound and smells and all these things that are novelty.
Yeah, I mean, I think that alone is such a huge shift, right? Especially for our little ones. Just the sheer overload of being around so many different people and learning to re-regulate to that again. I am hearing from educators at all different grade levels that kids are having to relearn what it is to be in school, whether they're a senior in high school or they're a 6-year-old having their first real day of school. Folks are having to relearn school.
It looks like our guest is here. She has joined us. So I'm going to pull her in from the green room. I see.
Should we take a break for a second and then we can?
Yeah, let's take a quick break. I don't know how to